Hi everyone, welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to look at a very important topic, which is how to be an employer of choice in your local community. So in most care settings, we are recruiting from a very small area. And so building a brand, building a great employer brand and being a place that people want to work for can make a huge difference. And I'm delighted to be joined by Adam Hutchison of Belmont Healthcare. Hi, Adam.
How you doing, Neil?
Sure. I'm very good, thanks. And Adam's got a really interesting story. And so I'll let you, first of all, Adam, tell you a little bit about Belmont Healthcare, and then we'll find out a bit more about some of the achievements he's got from building this brand in the local community. So yes, tell us a bit about Belmont Healthcare, Adam.
All right, well, we're a small healthcare company that are growing down in the southeast. So we concentrate primarily on elderly, dementia, Parkinson's, Huntington's, and we sort of have a plethora of sort of value add, so residential care, home care, community outreach programs, step down from hospital, that type of thing. And we employ just over 280 people at the moment.
Okay, brilliant. And you've got some, well, let's start with what you've achieved, because it's remarkable. I remember meeting you and hearing the feedback, or what you've achieved. So in terms of agency usage and spend on recruitment and so on, could you tell us a little bit about where you are as an organisation on those numbers?
Yeah, well, if I'm brutally honest, I've always found recruitment a challenge, as I think everybody has. And I came from a telecommunications background before coming into the healthcare sector, so we were very much focused on call centres. So I found a real synergy between call centres and the workforce within the healthcare industry. Lots of attrition, always another job on the same street, if not the business park around the corner when it was with telecoms. And obviously in the care sector, there's always a care home that's close by. So it was looking at, well, I don't want to go through multitudes of recruitment. So in the last 18 months, our last management accounts only showed £1,580 spent on recruitment for that period. And in terms of agency, we haven't used agency for nearly 2 years. Apart from some natural agency that we're in a business that we've acquired in March. So I wouldn't like to be too promoted, but our existing businesses, we don't use agency whatsoever.
That's fantastic. And many providers, care homes, will be very envious of the numbers. And so how would you attribute that? What sort of, what's different, do you think? And what have you done differently than perhaps other care homes in the area?
Well, one of the things that I think that I'm really proud of and really passionate about in general is about ensuring that people enjoy coming to work. I think it's really important. And I think, there's lots of books that talk about it, but actually it's creating the practice. And I think something like the healthcare industry and adult social care has kind of been forgotten, and that should also be a great place to work. And just having an environment where people want to come in, they want to deliver good care, they want to add value to somebody else's life while they're there. And that's kind of what it's about. And I think that then creates good stories in the community. Like you said, we only recruit within a very small area. So if you've got to think that the people who we employ will speak to other people at the school gates, at the local Sainsbury's or the local Tesco's, or when they go to the local pub, or when they're in the local curry house. All of these things, they will have some sort of story, and usually find, as human beings, that we always end up talking about work. So why doesn't that story be positive? And that's the problem. If you're having a negative story about where you work, then nobody's going to want to work there. But if you're recruiting locally and there's positive stories, we found, we do have lots of people that join us because of somebody who works for us. And then that means that we have a community, because normally it's friends or family, which means they tend to look after each other because they know each other anyway. And I actually think that works really well, because the adult social care is a social job. So you want people to get on and enjoy. I think sometimes there's a restriction where in some industries where you don't want people to be too friendly to each other. I just think it's a perfect place for that to happen. And that's really helped us.
And that's really good. And what would you say some of the practical measures you've taken that would be potentially different to build this sort of reputation of these staff saying you're different? Why would they say that? Is there anything practical you do?
Well, we put some specifics in place. So first of all, let's look at agency, because this is reflected in it. So in terms of agency, we offer an uplift for people for covering shifts. So rather than being aggressive and make it difficult for people to either have time off or last minute time off, we actually make it quite easy for people. And actually we found by doing that and being not so, how can I put it, draconian almost, in terms of making, you can't call in sick, or you can't have a problem with your children in terms of schooling or them being ill, so they have to be home from school. We actually allow people, it's okay for you to tell us that, which means people are more likely to tell us less last minute. They know in advance, because most people will know if somebody's ill the night before, but you only normally get a call 10 minutes before shift because somebody's afraid to make that call. So we just make it a little bit more of an open environment. So what happens is then somebody will find a way of covering that shift themselves, so we don't have to phone agency. So we have an app which enables people to post a shift and say, look, I'm not going to be able to make this one, and somebody else can pick that up, and that person who picks it up will get a bonus for it, but the person who relinquishes it won't get penalized for relinquishing the shift. So we've always found that covers it really nicely, and it's a pretty decent uplift that we give for that cover shift, because actually I'm going to have to pay that uplift to an agency anyway. So I prefer it to go to my own teams, because not only is it better for themselves, it's also better for the service users, because they're getting the continuity of somebody that they know. So that's a sort of practical way. And then we do, team building events. We have every quarter, all of the homes go out and do something, whether it's a meal or bowling or just an opportunity which we fund just to get them into doing something different. We have people like Wellness come in, and we do wellbeing leadership days, and we're also very specific on roles. So certain individuals will all get responsibility. So we'll have a wellbeing lead, we'll have medication lead, we'll with all of these things, which means that when people come in, they feel like they can work towards something. So it's not just about the manager and the deputy manager. We can have a management, and those are just some of the things that works in attracting from a recruiting perspective, because people think, oh, I would like to do that, or I haven't been given that opportunity elsewhere. That's how we found anyway.
Oh, it's really good and refreshingly different. And why do you think? How have you come about doing this? Is it the sort of a family company ethos? This, because it's a bigger thing, isn't it? The culture of the company.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was initially started as a family business, not quite so much now, but we still, in terms of, it's not a family that's running it anymore. But I mean, in terms of, we do still offer real family environments. I believe in, when I go into work, I tend to do a lot of my office-based work either at home or when I'm traveling or late in the evenings, because I think that when I'm in the homes, I think it's good to be visible. So yes. I always make sure I go and see people and have a conversation and try and understand a little bit about them. So we always try and have a bit of a chat. So I don't see myself as too disparate from the rest of the teams. So I suppose that creates that family environment. But also we have a management development program, which really helps with recruitment. So people tend to come in as as carers or senior care positions, and then they can work their way up, because we found that it's just much better for people to understand the culture. So 2 of our registered managers in 2 of our care settings at the moment were both carers when I initially acquired those businesses that they're in. But we looked at the opportunity and said, what do you want to do in the future? And I think that's a really important question in recruitment. I think we spend too much time looking backwards. I think sometimes it's about, what do you want to do? And sometimes giving people that platform is all you need.
It's really good. And I think if people feel they're on some sort of organised programme where they've been asked initially when they joined what their aspirations are, they'll feel, it's not just training and then good luck. You have to carry on doing the same thing. There's a future, isn't there? Whether that means they want to be promoted away from the front line, or whether they want to just personally develop and stay on the front line.
Yeah, we just offer those as much as possible, but also in turn, we don't force people. If people don't wish to do that, then they don't have to. But it's very clear in making sure that we give the opportunity for people to tell us that they want to go on and do something. And I think that's been really successful. And we've seen people really sort of grab hold of it. One of my registered managers at the moment is, she really takes on a lot of of things in terms. It's quite inspirational with her teams because she's sort of been there. So I think she understands what it's like when you have the tough days and you have some challenging individuals. And I think she can really carry that forward. So I think that's really helped. And also, you don't have to worry about understand that culture, how you're looking to work. And I think that's really useful. But again, I suppose that's a little bit more on retention than recruitment.
Yeah, and I suppose on recruitment, where do your staff come from then? I mean, presumably you're not spending a fortune on a job board. So where would you say your staff come from?
No, we don't. We like I said, we spent £1,580 in the last period of that's an entire year in terms of recruitment. And that was really attributed to where we have posted on job boards. But actually, the majority of our recruitment either comes from internal referrals, where people join us, like I said, either friends or family, which is word of mouth. We do quite a lot of work with Facebook. We have a lot of activity on our Facebook page. So we tend to have at least 2 to 3 posts a day about things that we're doing. So obviously that gets out in the wider community, because you think the friends of the people that look on your Facebook page are the friends of your staff in the local area, so they get to see some of the things that we're doing. So I think we found some real benefits from again displaying what we do. But to be honest, that's about it, because certainly in 3 of our homes that are quite in a close area, quite small communities, we don't tend to have many people leave. So recruitment is minimal. The leaves tend to be maternity or retirement tend to be our sort of key triggers if you look at the data.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that actually, and you've got a number, haven't you, for staff turnover, for your staff turnover, annual staff turnover rate?
Yes, under 7%.
Unbelievable.
No, it's under 7%. Right, so it's between 6 and 7, and the exact number is it's about 6.8 if I remember rightly, but it's under 7. I always just say under 7.
It's fantastic. Well, I mean, that's been.
I think it as it grows, I think that's the key now for us, is that remembering that we have to take those culture bits forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say? Are there any simple starting points for a provider, or let's say that you took over a chain of care homes and home care, whatever the setting is? What would be the simple things, or maybe they're not simple, but what would you start with? Do you think, if you were giving advice to other providers on how to change things? It's not a magic wand, unfortunately, is there?
No, there isn't. But I think it's interesting, because we recently acquired a home this year, which had exactly the opposite culture to what we have. So it's interesting how. So I suppose I can put it into experience, and we've seen some dramatic changes in just 3 months, and that's down to embedding that culture. One of the key things we did is put people who already understand our way into that environment, so they got to work with staff who already know how we. I'm in there and what things are going on. Make them understand the positive areas that we have in our other homes. So really sort of putting that out there. So we display a lot of the things on the wallboards. We bring people into new training environments. And I think the biggest thing is that I can say in terms of advice is just do what you say you're going to do. When it comes to people. So, we said we were going to renovate parts of the home. It's been done. We said we were going to put in a new strategy in terms of recruitment, in terms of promoting ourselves in the local area. We've done that. We've said that we were going to offer certain roles to those people who were in there, when we did that. And another example is, I don't believe in 0-hour contracts. So we're very static, which helps with recruitment a lot, because we only do a 24, 36, 42-hour contracts. It doesn't mean you have to work those, but people are then fixed. They know when they come in that, I know that I've got that security of a contract that accrues that amount of holiday and accrues those amounts of working hours. And this particular business that we went into had 50% 0-hour contracts. So change that instantly. You've automatically got people on board, and then it's helped with the recruitment, because then that message gets out locally. So those are some key little things that are really worth focusing on when you go in and look at a new home.
Well, that's really helpful advice. But thank you so much, Adam. It's been really a pleasure to talk to you and learn about what is an amazing set of statistics for a care setting in any country, I would say. And thanks very much for sharing some of the secrets, and well, really good. And I hope you'll join us again for the retention course.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for inviting me on, Neil.
Brilliant. Thanks, Adam.